Thank you. Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Oh, y'all gonna try to get me dancing right out the gate, I see. Okay. All right, cool. We're doing some dancing right out the gate. What's up, Sarah? How are you? Sarah McCord, Miss Sarah McCord. I don't hear you, Sarah McCord. Oh, there's Rebecca. I see Miss Rebecca has joined us. Let's see if we can invite to video. Oh, there's Sarah. Now I see Sarah. We can't hear you, Sarah. We can't hear you. Sarah, we can't hear you. Hi, Miss Rebecca. How are you? Uh-oh. I can't hear her either. Now I can hear all the sounds and the clapping and the dancing, but I can't hear Rebecca and I
It
can't hear
was me.
Sarah. Can you guys hear
It
each other?
wasn't you. I was on Clubhouse. It was me. I got the tech wrong.
All right, great. Now what
It
about
was
Miss
There we
my
go.
Rebecca?
tech. I was like, what's
Hi.
happening?
Hi.
Okay,
Can you hear me
you
now?
guys were freaking me out. I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on here?
I'm going to actually jump down in a
Okay.
minute, but Rebecca, I wanted to introduce myself and also show you that I'm sporting some Rebecca Minkoff today for your interview. So
I love the
excited
sparkle.
to hear from you. So I almost feel like I should like do a full.
Show
So
us the whole
super.
thing. Show it off. I love it.
I mean, I'm standing in a Starbucks. This is my level of dedication. Hold on. Let me like move this tripod back. I don't know if we can like get the.
Awesome. It looks beautiful. Well, I'm sitting in my
Thank
kids'
you.
playroom, and you're going to see a little baby girl on the floor there. So that's my contribution this morning.
Well, I'm just saying we are on video 5 days a week, and I think I look pretty good at Rebecca Minkoff. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing that out there before Glenn kicks this video interview off. We're super excited you're here this morning. I'm gonna hop down to.
Okay.
We are super excited that you're here, and I'm almost thinking I might need to change my lighting here. Look at that.
You think I need to change my lighting, Glenn?
There
Should
we
I
go. I
face
need
the
to be a
light?
little more.
Should I take a baby chair and face the light too?
Yeah, we want to see you. That's for sure.
Oh, you're going to see my. Okay. Well, I don't know if it's going to get much better than this.
It's perfect. Thank you so much for being here. Tell me about that little baby back there.
So I have one child currently in my room / where I would have taken this with COVID, and it looks like COVID just got this little baby girl right here. So we're quarantining.
I see. And how old is that baby girl?
She's 7.
7 years old. What's her name?
Bowie.
Bowie. And she's one of two? Is that what you said?
One of 3.
One of three. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So
Not
it's an
bad.
exciting morning around here.
Yeah. How old are the other two?
3 and 10.
3 and 10. So you got a 10, a 7, and a 3.
Yes.
I also have all of those. I have a 10, a 7, and a 3.
Wow. Well, you know the chaos, the amazing chaos that is created.
I also have a 12 and a 6 and a 22 and
What?
a 2 and a 1. I have 8 total.
What? Oh my God, you're prolific.
Yeah.
One baby mama?
I have 7 children with my wife, and I have
Wow.
1 child with an ex-girlfriend back when I was younger.
God bless your wife for putting out 7 babies. That's incredible.
Thank you. It is quite the gift. Quite the gift, that's for sure. So, congratulations, though. What a gift it is, right? Being a parent. It's a little difficult and challenging these days over the last 2 years. What would you say? How have the last 2 years affected you as a parent in those types of relationships?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think when COVID hit and we went into lockdown, the first 5 months were really tough playing homeschool teacher. I mean, I don't probably have to explain to anyone here, trying to manage all that with my husband was
Yeah,
hard. And I just was like, you know what? I'm not good at this. So we're going to go to a state that's open and free, Florida, and we're going to put our kids in school. And so we moved in with my parents actually from June of 20 till September of 21. And the kids were in school 9 to 5. I could work. I flew up to New York, every other week as needed.
sure.
And so my experience was one of as giving my kid as normal of an environment pre-COVID as possible. And then we just came back here in September, and I just ripped the kids out of school. They're now homeschooling because it was like every other week there was a lockdown and they were on Zoom. And it reached a point where my son was like, I refuse to do Zoom. I won't get on a Zoom class. I said,
Mm,
I wouldn't get on a Zoom class either. I can't learn that way.
right.
And so now they're being homeschooled and they're doing so much better, but it's still hard, it's still not ideal that we haven't figured out a way to just give kids a normal life and the routine that they need.
Yeah, it's
Not to
very
be a
bad.
downer this morning, Glenn.
No, Rebecca, to be honest, so what we're doing here with Breakfast with Champions here on Fireside is we really want to create. We believe that some of the best conversations happen over breakfast, right? When you're kind of getting your day going and maybe sharing a meal and just having some real table talk. And so I definitely don't want this to be like a standard interview. I want to talk about the real stuff that's going on from different perspectives because I believe when we can have conversations and offer access to different experiences, one, we can figure out that we're all in this together, right? Really, we're all in this. Everybody's got the things that we deal with, and then two, we can also, I feel, unlock and untap. Different perspectives and ideas that we might not have before. Which, speaking of my breakfast, it just arrived right here at the table. Thank
Nice.
you, sir. No, I think I'm perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, so breakfast just arrived over here. I'm assuming you're not going to be eating over there.
I don't want to sound like an annoying millennial, but I'm intermittent fasting, so coffee's my jam in the morning.
There's nothing annoying with that. I had put on yeah, everything looks perfect. It's perfect. Yes. Thank you, Rebecca. I put on, so the first year of COVID was a year of my wife and I watching multiple reruns of King of Queens, Friends, and Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh my
And we would
gosh.
do that while we were in bed eating multiple bowls of ice cream every single night. And so I put on like 20 pounds in that first year. And I was like, no, this ain't gonna work. My knees started to hurt. I was starting to not feel really out of shape. And so I
Yeah.
was like, all right, I'm gonna go to intermittent fasting. And that to me, I lost the weight right away, just not eating, between the hours of 8 p.m. and noon. The next day, it really made a difference. So I don't think that sounds crazy at all. I think you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, well, I took December and I was like, I'm gonna eat whatever I want and as much as I want. And I'm pretty allergic to gluten and dairy. And so I was eating, my diet consisted of bread and any type of dairy of any kind. And I felt terrible and horrible. And I was like, January, I'm gonna get back on my health kick. So here we go.
Get back on
Coffee till
track.
noon.
Fair enough. And I want to go back to the earlier conversation where you talked about in the beginning of COVID and some of the um, not being able to create those routines and habits that our children really need, right? They need routine, they need consistency, they need to know what to expect. And you mentioned how you guys were able to move. You chose to move to a state that was more open to experience that. And one of the things that tapped into when you said that, Rebecca, is I was thinking, how important in your mind, how important is it that we put ourselves in a position where we can make decisions like that. Like, hey, you know what? This isn't working. We're going to move. So, from a financial aspect and a business aspect, how important do you think it is to be able to put ourselves in a position where we're not confined and constrained financially to what's going on, but we can actually make a decision like just pick up and move to Florida.
Yeah, so I mean, I say that, and I realize that some people didn't have relatives somewhere. You know, when we moved into my parents' house, it was, free rent, some built-in
Nice.
childcare. We were able to rent out one of, our home, so that created a comfort level where we weren't freaking out financially in terms of just having an empty spot. And, I said, okay, I'll take on the annoying burden of the airplane as my bus, right? I'll go to New York every other week to be with my team. And um, so I think no matter how you look at it, there are sacrifices one have to make. But I just knew that if we continued to shelter in place and we continued to be remote through the rest of that year, watching my children not do well. I wasn't doing well. I'm the first to say I am not a good teacher. We would take 2 hours with this cutie to get her to write a sentence, and then you're just like, can she write the sentence, or is she just not, because this isn't this wasn't what I was supposed to do in life.
Sure.
And then to see them thrive, I said it's worth the sacrifice because they had the freest, I would say, existence. I would joke with my friends. I was like, I'm going up to Gilead this week, because I would come back here, and the fear and the isolation and the don't touch, don't talk was the polar opposite of the experience I was having. And my friend was like, wait, you guys are hanging out with people? You're having play dates? And I was like, yeah, and we're all fine. We're all surviving. And so it was just a weird, if I can swear, Glenn.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, it was a mind fuck, to be honest, to go from the experience I was having in Florida, and then every other week be like, why won't you come near me, or why are you looking at me like I have something because I went,
Right.
And
Yeah.
so
Very.
again, people might say, oh, how nice, you could just pick up and move to Florida, which some people decided to comment on that. But I think if you're not doing well, don't sit in that situation, and it might be uncomfortable, but you might have to look at how it could be, you might have
That's
to
right.
say, okay, this might not happen tomorrow, but how do we make it happen? How do we plan for it? And how do we change?
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. And I experienced some of that myself as far as I travel quite a bit. And I have dealerships that I work with in Florida. And so I was going back and forth to Florida every month, and then coming back here to Kentucky. And our reality here, Rebecca, is we own 10 acres of land, and we're just outside of town, and my wife homeschools all the kids. She has for
Oh,
4 or 5 years.
amazing.
And so it was great, and we weren't as impacted, but there was one moment. So there's these neighbor kids that live down the street that my kids run with, right? There's basically a gang of kids on the street, Rebecca. They all got dirt bikes and quads, and there's like 12 of them. And at one point, they hadn't seen their friends in I don't know, a month or 6 weeks or something like that. And they went outside. My kids were in the yard, and the neighbor kids happened to be like out on a walk. And I watched these kids run towards each other and then stop about 15 feet apart. They stopped and they were like, hi, we haven't seen you in forever. It's great to see you. And I watched that moment and I said, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't do this. This isn't
Yeah.
this isn't okay. And so I sent a message out to the whole neighborhood, and I said, we just want to let you know we're going to be safe. We're going to wash our hands. We're going to do all of those things. Your children are welcome here, and you are too. We're just not going to do this. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. Thank you. And so we made that decision fairly early on to just try to make it as normal for them as humanly possible. Now, Rebecca, you've been up against adversity. I know your story, and it's pretty incredible. You got your start in way back in fashion design, and being right on the verge of getting fired with the company that you were with, and then you created the I Love New York T-shirt that got worn by a celebrity on the Jay Leno show, and that kind of kicked you back into gear. Fast forward to purses that you've sold now, what, millions of Rebecca Minkoff purses? Is that right?
Iconic, Glenn. I'm just gonna pop in here and say that the word that you're looking for is iconic. I'm actually Glenn's fashion consultant, not just his partner. So I'm gonna just pop in with a word like iconic.
So you've sold millions of Rebecca Minkoff purses. I know that you got nitty and gritty and had to get into all of the little local boutiques and stores, and then ultimately got into Nordstrom's and really pioneered in a lot of ways. You pioneered fashion brands actually having connections with their audiences, actually speaking to their audience, and all of those things. So as I've researched and learned more about your story, I just think it's fascinating how every time you've ran into a roadblock or some type of adversity, you've found a way to climb under or dig under, climb over, scale around, but still hit that target. And so I would love to talk about that a little bit more. Where did that tenacity and grit come from that exists in you? And how can we apply it to what's going on today as we're all dealing with adversity in so many different ways?
So I think that my mom raised us with a hardworking mindset. Nothing was ever given to us in my household. There was a ledger in the kitchen, and it kept a balance of what we'd earned, and that was the only way we got things. And just from
Mm,
a young age, she taught us the importance of hard work. And let me be honest, it completely sucks when you're a kid and you just want your mom to buy you that damn dress or the Barbie or whatever. Um, but in hindsight, as I'm trying to teach my divine children the same lessons,
right?
um it's you watch their reactions. They're like, why can't you just buy it for me? Like, come on, get me the cheese on the McDonald's cheeseburger, it's 10 cents more. But I'm not joking, Glenn. There was we couldn't buy the cheese on the cheeseburger. We could the whole family had to split up a small fry, and I had to earn everything I wanted. And so I think that taught me the value of hard work and of nothing's going to come easy. So that was kind of hardwired into me. And I think pre social media, you never saw people not working hard. You know, it was, you saw a fashion designer working their butt off in the studio, 80, 100 hours a week. There was no examples of anyone just coasting. And I think good and bad, I'm here because of social media and the connection to my customer, but also it made people go, oh, look at how easy it is. They only see the pretty sides of it. So I think in any industry, it's going to be hard. It's going to be rocky, and it's not the bumps in the road. It is the road. And I think when you finally recognize that, it makes it easier on your approach, because, you're going to experience turbulence and you're going to get through it. But if you're like, oh, that was way harder than I thought, or that obstacle, you know what, I'm tapping out, I'm done. I think you have to extend your time horizon for success. You have to extend your expectations for what you want. And I think when you've done that, then each barrier is just like, okay, good. What am I going to learn from this? How am I going to overcome it? What's the strategy? What is the strategy to approach it, instead of like, I want to run from this. This is too hard. And I think with everything being available at the click of a button, literally, I'm
Hmm.
quarantining right now because of said children, and everything's coming and arriving, right? Because we can't leave the house. But, you go, oh, my career should be like that. Why can't I just tap and I'm famous, and tap and I'm rich? And I think we just have to get over it. It sounds great, but that's for a Disney movie. That's not real life.
Yeah, that's a rare moment. And I'm curious, did you, with those walls, and is it okay if I eat? I feel rude that I'm eating and you're not eating.
Eat away. My
Are you
my
sure?
daughter has a delicious chocolate croissant behind me that I'm smelling from a. So don't worry, I can't smell your food. That's good.
I feel a little weird. I'm like, I'm just meeting Rebecca Minkoff, and she's powerful, and here I am eating bacon and scrambled eggs.
No, it sounds
Um,
good.
um, did you always know the target on the other side of that wall? Like you used the word, the bumps in the road are, they just are the road. Uh, Sometimes I think that those bumps can sometimes feel like maybe we're on the wrong path, right? Like there should be a smoother path. And so, did you always know the target at the end, and that helped you get through those bumps, or did you ever experience kind of some confusion along the way?
There's definitely confusion, and good or bad, I think what you envision being the goal changes, and it changes
Mm,
fast. And just to give
hmm
some examples, when we were growing, in the beginning, we were growing quite fast, and it was really uncomfortable because we were self-funded. My brother literally put the leather to make the bags on his Amex. And every dollar that came in went right back out. My salary was, he said, "What do you need to live?" And I should have padded it, but it was like $23,000 a year. I was so like, well, my rent is $800 a month, and my food is $300, and that calculates to $23,000 a year, or whatever it was. And he was like, "Cool, that's what we can afford to pay you." So I lived a very lean life. New York City, if you live here, that's almost impossible. And
hmm
so, I remember our bank at the time that was beginning to do advance us cash on purchase orders so we could start to fund it off my brother's Amex. They said, if you just hit 5 million in sales, you'll be profitable, and it'll get so much easier once you're profitable. And I was like, all right, gang. And I came into the office and I drew this big thermometer, and I was like, we just got to hit 5 million and our problems will all go away. We'll go to Jamaica for the weekend. My treat for everybody. I had like 4 people on staff at the time. And we hit 5 million, and we were still not profitable, and we were still growing, and it was great, but nothing got easier. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe that answer is 10. And then it was, as we expanded, you get a little drunk on the, look at Michael Kors, he's $1 billion company. Look at Kate Spade, $1 billion. Let's do that. And then you sort of go, okay, we're going to get on that ship. What is that? What is going for growth look like? You take in private equity, you sell pieces of your company, everything starts aligning on how do we grow, grow, grow. And that is very different from wanting a steady and slower growth, right? That you're not as over leveraged mentally, financially. And so the goals change. And then you go, oh, I don't want that life. I just want to be able to be home with my kids and not check emails on Saturday, So I think it's okay to have your goals change. It's okay to want different things. And it's okay also to get to your goal and be like, oh, that's all? That's what that felt like? I think one of the things about entrepreneurs is we're constantly on our own extending that mirage, and we're constantly pushing it out, whether we're aware of it or not, because I've learned and forced myself to really hold on to the fact that it is about the journey. It is about experiencing the ride of it and not necessarily that end goal. And I really, when I wrote my book, I said, okay, it's not about the book coming out. It's about everything I'm going to go through to get the book to come out and enjoy
Mm.
each one of those moments. And then that made my experience with launching a book so much more enjoyable than I just got to get to where the book comes out because then blah's going to happen.
I love that. What is the goal now?
Ooh, you're asking me at quite an interesting inflection point in my life, Glenn. The goal now, and it actually came out of a podcast that I did with Norma Kamali.
Okay.
And she said, it's not about living a successful life. It's about living a satisfied life. And I think
Mm.
I'm trying to orient my life around what brings me and my family satisfaction versus success. Because I think, again, we're all blinded by, if we just have X, it'll be fine. But now it's like,
Sure.
how do I enjoy each moment? Who are the people that I enjoy? Where do I love getting inspiration? And not about some number. And I think
Mm.
when you aim to live a more satisfied life, your decisions are going to be different than if you're trying to just achieve success and it's this contest against more and more and more. I don't think that's a definition of satisfaction, at least to me anymore.
Yeah, I agree. So let's I'm gonna keep going a little bit deeper with Rebecca on this one. I like where we're headed. So what would you say in that satisfied life? Like, what are some of the things that you find great satisfaction from?
I'm gonna go over things that are probably trite and whatever, but it's being able to be with my kids at night and not, it's the shift. It's the mental shift of, sorry,
Oh, you're fine.
playing dinosaurs and being in it versus moving your hand around
Mm,
and pretending while you're thinking about all the problems at work.
yeah. Yeah.
So it's not checking email on the weekends. Obviously, these are small little things, but I think they're just meaningful right now when you've built a brand over 17 years and you gave it everything and you sacrificed everything. Now it's like, okay, good. It's been 17 years. Let me take a step back. What makes this worth it? This has allowed me to build something. Let me enjoy it. So what are all
Right.
those other aspects? It's being able to work from home 3 days a week. It's not on the treadmill of I gotta be at every party and every event and talk to every person and blah, blah, blah. Like it's just like, okay, good. Does this make me and my family happy? Let's how do we prioritize that and enjoy my work? Don't get me wrong. But I think it's not work is the only thing now. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
It totally makes sense. And I know that, for me, Rebecca, I ran a really successful dealership for a lot of years and was leaving the house at, 6 in the morning and getting home at 9 at night. And we experienced a lot of success. And one day I just decided, kind of like what you're talking about. I was like, this is great. The success is awesome. The money's good. We've got the white picket fence and all of those things. But I want to be able to be in it. I want to play dinosaurs and be in it and not be worried about work all the time. And so I
Yeah.
walked away uh, from that job and started my entrepreneurial journey, about 3 years ago. And one of the things my wife and I sat down and we said, I will have breakfast and dinner with my kids 250 days a year, right? And that still left 115 days to travel and chase and do all of those things. But really, the dinner part, especially, because I was just always gone before, and it's much more satisfying. But I think it's interesting because everybody thought I was nuts. Everybody thought I was crazy walking away from this high paying job, high profile position that I worked so hard for. And, you know, they thought it was a midlife crisis. Those are the words they used. You're having a midlife crisis. And what I've come to learn and experience as I've talked to more amazing human beings like yourself is it's not really a midlife crisis. It's like a midlife awakening, right? We start to open our eyes and go, okay, yeah, we climbed this mountain, but we still got a long ways to go. And do we
Yeah.
want to stay on this particular mountaintop for the next 60 years? I'm not so sure that I do. And I think that's a great thing when people start to reevaluate what really brings them satisfaction, right? And what really is a priority. So I love that you're in that season. And I'm sure your family is receiving the rewards of that as well.
Yes, I dare say right now I'm a little over indexed on being home,
Yeah.
but but that's just a fluke. It's just a COVID fluke, and I think I'm learning the balance. Right? Obviously, I'm quarantined right now, but as soon as I'm out, I'm like, I just got an invitation for like a get together for some friends, and I was like, oh my god, February 10th, I can't wait. I'm gonna leave the house and I'm gonna go be with friends. I was like, I felt like I had been invited to the ball. So you also have to be careful what you wish for. Sometimes I want more family time. Okay, actually, wait. I want to see some folks my age.
We're so fickle as human beings. And for some reason, I bet you Sarah did that. I bet you Sarah turned off our sounds. So one of the things on this app is people can clap
I
and
did
cheer and
not. You got to tell people.
there they are. I see the emoticons, but I couldn't hear anything.
What's the music that's being played? When someone plays music, what's that mean?
So that's them
They're
like they're
celebrating.
celebrating.
Oh, okay.
Okay, there it is. Okay, I thought you turned it off, Sarah. I apologize for assuming. We all know what happens when you assume, right?
No, what
It makes an
happens,
ass
Glenn?
out of you. So I apologize. I saw the emoticons kind of moving, but I didn't hear anything. So that was my bad. Miss Rebecca, during this particular season, there's two actually things that I'd like to know from a business standpoint is you're seeing your business from the inside out. The rest of us would see it from from the outside in. And so, from your perspective, over the last 2 years, with you being a company that is very much integrated into the online world and people are able to order your products from all over, you have tons of visibility in the world of social media and all of those things, including you specifically, which I love that you can see Rebecca and not just the brand, but we actually see you and get to know you, which is amazing. Has this 2 years, how has it impacted or affected sales? I'm interested in, and then also how has it impacted and affected like the culture of your team and your employees and your staff?
Yeah, great questions. So I would say that in March of 2020, I can't believe we're going on 2 years.
Yeah,
Our business
crazy.
was mostly wholesale, which means Saks, Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus,
Hmm.
30% e-commerce. We wanted it to be 50-50, but we knew that it had to happen very slowly and very
Okay.
carefully. You can't
Okay.
just shut off your biggest sources of funds in order to focus on your site. And every day was, how's this selling at Nordstrom? How's this selling? What did they like? What did they think about the product? Like our mindset as we walked in the office was, what does everyone else think and how's it going for them?
Hmm.
And how do we optimize for them? And then March 22nd, every single one of our orders were canceled and our business overnight shrunk by 70%.
Really?
Obviously, yeah, our stores closed.
Wow.
Obviously, every store closed. So we just had our website. And my brother and I sat there and we did a math exercise. We said, what do we need to keep the lights on? And what do we have to do daily in order to pay our team and to keep
Right.
going?
Right.
We had just taken in, I feel like, $16 million worth of product for department stores that was just sitting in a warehouse. And it
Wow.
was called Operation Melt That Pile. Um, and
Right.
and it was really scary. Our team shrunk by 50% due to the nature of the business and the needs we didn't have by servicing our wholesale partners. We daily, we called it day trading. What do we do today? How was traffic? And so the team really banded together in a way that I'd always wanted, that I thought having the right paint color on the walls and the proper talks in my office and therapy hours, come talk to Rebecca, all the things I tried to do pre-pandemic to make a culture,
Really drive that connection.
actually came together when we were all separated, ironically, all working from home saying, we're all in, there's 22 of us, let's save this company. And we were guerrilla. I started acting like how I acted at age 21 in terms of my mindset of I'm going to be online every night. I'm going to talk to my customer. We're going to do giveaways. We're going to do promos. We're going to do partnerships with other brands where we're talking to each other. And we saw an increase in traffic. We saw an increase in conversion. We launched text messaging before everybody else did in the shopping arena. And
Hmm.
so the ability to shift our mindset of what's growing in our garden fundamentally changed our company for the better. And we actually ended the year with our e-com sales 10% up over the year prior. And we felt like
Congratulations.
thank you. It was a big feat and not all on me.
Sure.
But I think we said, okay, now it's about Rebecca Minkoff. And we're first, and our site is first. What do we stand for? What is our vision? And everyone else gets to come play in our sandbox, but this is our house, and we built it, and we built it with our own fingers, and they're bleeding. So we're gonna protect it. And so I think that shift not only improved our culture and made a resilient, um, really entrepreneurial team, but it made our business really, really grow. And we were going like this, Glenn. We were like gonna surpass for 22, 2019's goals. And then Vietnam, where we make a lot of our product in the fourth quarter of last year, shut down. So we have faced
Mm.
some interesting setbacks. We got 3,000 out of 97,000 bags that we were supposed to get.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was our first big blow because we had product and now we were not with product. And so now you can't do anything if you don't have product.
Rebecca, I've heard a
Right.
lot
So
about the supply chain in fashion and COVID. I'm super interested in that. What are you doing?
we're being really creative. So some of the supply chain issues, as you saw, like if you looked at all the container ships stuck off the coast of California, that was not
Right.
our problem. Our problem was where our bags were being made in Vietnam. All those factories were forcibly shut down by the government, and they allowed 300 workers back instead of 3,000. So they can only make a certain amount of bags. So when they said to us, hey, you're going to get 3,000 bags, not 100,000 bags, we were like, cool, great. We're going to figure this out. So
Right.
we've been working with the product we have, trying to keep it fresh, constantly rephotographing it. We've had, I guess, a couple of strokes of good luck in that, we were about to launch home, so we could really talk about that as a story. We have a couple of other new launches that we can prioritize now because the product is beginning to trickle in, and it'll trickle in the next couple weeks. But you're constantly like, well, just throw that calendar and timeline out. How are we gonna figure this out? So it's day by day in terms of what's coming when. And you're just forced to be really creative when you don't have a lot of product or the amount of product you need to do the business that you're supposed to do. So
Yeah.
it's a very interesting time right now, but it should get better in the next 2 weeks.
Well, I'm glad to hear it's going to be getting better in the next 2 weeks. I'm curious, what would you say is the biggest lesson that you learned about yourself through all of that you want to make sure not to forget if things do kind of get back to normal, that you want to make sure to carry over into the future?
I think that there is a degree of blood, sweat, and tears that you are all in when you are starting your business and it's just you. And then you get a little tiny team and it gets a little bit better. And then you have a team of like 60, which is what we had pre-pandemic. And I'm for sure not saying I was coasting, but there were just things I didn't have to worry about. I didn't have to worry about our e-com sales or how we were going to promote that week. And then when you're faced with going out of business, as we were in 2020, and you're like, oh, wait, I'm going to write the copy and I'm going to photograph and do all the content. And I'm now the copy editor and the video creator and whatever it is, right? Like, you're like, oh, okay, it's been a while. All right, let's see if I still got this.
Right.
And so I remember a very clear conversation with my brother, who's my co-founder. And he was like, this is the time when entrepreneurs are forged in steel. It is these tests that make us stronger and more resilient and able to bounce back. And, I think when you look at even the 2008 recession, the companies that came out of that are pretty incredible. And so I was like, all right, we're going to be one of these companies that comes out of this more resilient, more successful, and just more badass. So I feel like my core is now made of steel and I can handle almost anything at this point.
I love that, and just carrying over that underdog new starter company kind of mentality and continuing to run with that no matter what success levels, right? It's different definitions of success, but no matter what success levels you reach, I think that's really impactful and great self-reflection on your part. It sounds like your brother is a very insightful human as well. You've mentioned him multiple times as we've talked. And it seems like he really inspires and motivates and is a huge part of the success that you've had with this company as well. Is that a relationship that you guys have always had, even when you were young, or is that something that developed later in life?
The irony is that when we were growing up, he was my mean older brother. And it wasn't until, I would say 13, 14 that we started getting along. And then it was good. And then we got along great for the first couple of years of being in business. And then when it got stressful, that's when the claws came out. And when he started overstepping in my arena and telling me what I should design, and I started yelling at him about not having any money in the company, then the sparks flew. So we've definitely had our ups and downs. We've had, times. I think in 2014, I didn't speak to him unless I had to for 9 months. And we were always professional. We would always, our
Mm-hmm.
team never knew, but we shared an office, and it would just be this like stubborn silence with your brother, like that you just don't
Right.
talk. And so we actually started working with a business counselor, and really helping once or twice a year to reset and say, okay, this is what you did that I didn't like. These are our new goals, and really lay it all out and get clarity and write out how you want to treat each other, how you want to be communicated to. And I think that if anyone has a co-founder, related or not, it gets more complicated if you're married and related, because you can take it to places that you would never take it to with
Right.
someone who you didn't grow up with. And so just establishing the rules of play, I think, are really key. And so, we had a rough patch and we just made up again, and so I think that it's going to happen when you're spending more time with that person and undergoing more stress than your spouse. Like, people, I don't know if you feel this way, but people are always like, is something going on with you and Gavin? And I'm like, no, that's never the person I'm fighting with. I am never fighting with, like, what could I possibly fight with my husband about when
Right.
I have this person I'm spending 12 hours a day with, and we're dealing with far more stressful things than, like, did you change the baby's diaper or
Right. Right. I
not?
100% can relate with that. I love that. I love that. So let me ask you this. Say the shirt doesn't make it to Jay Leno, your fashion designs don't take off. Uh, what do you think? What would Rebecca Minkoff be doing if you didn't have the Rebecca Minkoff brand? Like, what is the secret behind the scenes would have been Plan B that you think you would have found joy doing if you wouldn't have found the success that you've had?
I was styling on the side to pay and fund my early creations. About the first 4 years, from the t-shirt to the bag, was about a 4 year time span. And I had met a director pretty early on who was directing commercials, like every Bravo show, Project Runway, Top Chef. He was
Mm,
the guy that they called. And so I'll spare you the long story of how I met him and how he gave me a chance, but he gave me a chance to style a commercial. I blew him away, and I was his girl that he called for every single job. And so that paid great money. It was paying me far better than what I was doing with Rebecca Minkoff. And so I think, had that not happened, I would have pursued that. And that's what I was kind of looking at doing when I was on the brink of giving up, and like, well, why am I pushing this so hard when I can go make $800 a day working with
right,
Heidi Klum and Padma Lakshmi and styling all these, famous people, even though you're schlepping around, and that work is hard. Don't get me wrong. It is not glamorous. And these people are
right.
not easy to work with. I'll tell you offline about my J-Lo story. But
Yes, I look forward to that.
yeah. So I was looking at doing that, and that's probably what I would have done. And, maybe I would have had my own reality show instead of Rachel Zoe. Who knows?
Wow, 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 wow. That's fascinating. I love that. And it hits home a little bit as you share that with me, and I'm glad that you did, and I hope it hits home with other people too. Um, like right now, the automotive side of my business, it's easy. Like, the auto world has always been easy to me. I've always been able to make great money in the auto world. I have a great business in the auto world. It's easy. Breakfast with Champions, Rise and Grind, the media side of things, the mission side of things, where I really feel compelled to help people change the way they start their day, offer them access to amazing humans like yourself, give everybody a seat at the table. Like, this stuff's hard. This stuff's really, really, really hard. And sometimes I'll ask that question. I'm like, man, just go to the thing that's easy. You're making some good money at it. Just go to the easy thing. And then, I typically am reminded here or there, someone will send a message. Someone will say, we made an impact, or we inspired, or we changed their life in some way. And it's like, okay, all right, pull the sleeves back up on the sweater or sweater vest that Sarah always gives me grief for wearing. Pull the sleeves up on the sweater and get down and dirty and do that thing that's really on your heart, right? That you're really compelled to do. So I love that you share that. Rebecca, we're going to wrap this up here in just a few. Moving forward, it's 2022. You mentioned in 2008 how some of those greatest companies were forged during that season. I agree with you. I think some of the greatest companies of the future are being forged right now in this particular season. If you were to go back a little bit and say that you were just starting new right now, you were a new entrepreneur, you had a business idea, you had a dream, you had a vision, you had a goal, what would you do in this time, 2022, if you're kind of just starting out? Where do you think the areas of opportunity are for some people that might be in that position? They're looking to move forward and have success over the next few years.
All right, this is going to be a really long answer, Glenn.
Good. I love that.
Okay. First and foremost, um, I think that you should write down what you want to have in your life, and that the answer is not money and fame. You need to write down what is the product you want to create that you're going to exchange with other people that makes you happy and makes them happy. And make sure that
Okay.
you have enough passion about that project or that product that it's going to be your guiding light, your sort of north star for when it gets hard.
Okay.
Because you won't make a lot of money at first and you're not going to get famous potentially. And so you have to love it enough that it's like, okay, good. I can still get back. I just got punched in the gut. I'm going to go show up for work. And then I would say that you should extend your time horizon for success. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it's not going to happen in 3 months and 6 months and 9 months and a year. It might not happen in 3 years. It might be 5. It might be 17. It might
Mm,
be 17. And then you're like, oh, wait, guess what? That's not happening. Be willing to know that you have enjoyed every piece of it. So you don't get to the end and you're like, oh, I just worked like a dog and that's all I get.
right.
And then I would say that now more than ever, people want to belong to a tribe. And if they're going to buy you and support you, they want to know what you stand for, what your values are as a human being and as a brand. And how do you make those values part of your company? I want to stand for women. I want them to feel supported and educated. So I have my nonprofit, the Female Founder Collective. But I'm able to organically integrate that into my brand because I'm dressing women, for Christ's sake. I better make sure that they can actually be successageful.
Mm,
So really, really try and take what you love doing, and maybe that's always been seen as volunteer work, and integrate that into your brand messaging and storytelling. And then find and make sure that you have a white space. And even if it is a white t-shirt, why is it more special? I would dare say, scrap the business plan and make sure you have a brand plan. What do you look like? What does your customer listen to? What is her coffee in the morning? Where does she shop? Who is your customer, and bring her to life, and then talk to her and make sure she's actually real. Are you selling luxury t-shirts to a woman who only shops at fast fashion? Well, then you're never going to have success. And so, if you can really get into your customers' psychographic and aesthetic sort of desires, and that's actually a real person, or can be, represents real people, and talk to her and be really clear. You can't be everything to everyone. And then keep going. You're going to have so many barriers. You're going to have more barriers than successes. And I don't
mm,
know of a company that hasn't had that. So just know that that's part of it. And my last piece of advice is,
mm-hmm.
we see a lot of people on the cover of Forbes or Inc. or Fast Company, $1 billion company, raised $300 million. And everyone goes, oh, I got to raise money. And you don't. We bootstrapped for 7 years and it was highly uncomfortable. But when we sold a piece of our company, it was a much smaller piece of the pie and we retained control.
Mm,
And I would say that most founders, the biggest mistake they're making is, oh, she raised money, so I got to raise money too. And then your priorities are around, sorry.
oh, you're fine.
Your priorities are around your investors getting paid. They want to have an
Right.
exit. And so every
Right.
decision is going to be optimized around their exit. And they have a 7-year horizon or a 2-year, whatever it is. And so be careful who you take money from. And if you need to crowdfund, there's extraordinary resources, small business loans, but hold on to your baby as long as you can. and don't get blinded by this romantic notion that selling your company to other people or being valuated at X is this romantic fantasy of Cinderella, because it's not.
Gotcha. Wow. That's some powerful stuff right there. That's a little entrepreneur masterclass from Rebecca Minkoff right there, in just a short couple minutes here on Breakfast with Champions. And I definitely appreciate it. Can you share a little bit more about your foundation? I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's called the Female Founder Collective. You can go to femalefoundercollective.com. We have an incredible community of it's actually over 15,000 now founders across the United States that are women. And it's really about the sharing that goes on in that community, the black book, if you will, of resources, tips, and tricks. But then we have weekly seminars, webinars, Zooms, whatever you want to call it, with founders that have lived and breathed and done it, teaching skills. We're never going to teach you how to take a selfie. It's not the how to look pretty and use a filter. It's really the nitty gritty of business. Because as someone who started their business with a passion, I didn't know what EBITDA meant or how to read a spreadsheet or how to forecast sales. And you have
Right.
this oh shit moment. You're like, I didn't know I needed to know that.
Totally.
And we're teaching that to women. So I think, I would highly recommend joining our membership platform. It's called the 10th House, and getting access to this great and powerful community. For the longest time, there's been the boys club. There's a reason why, not to stereotype men, Glenn, but a lot of business
Okay,
is done
it's
on
all
the
right.
a lot of business is done on the golf course. And women have had their sewing circles, but never their, are you in Bitcoin? What are you investing in? How do you make your business more profitable? All these things. And so that's the community that is doing that. And so you can join us, and then we're having some live events. We're risking it. We're going to be in Austin in March. So check out the site if you're a woman-owned business.
I absolutely love that you're doing that. And I totally could relate with what you're saying. I was at a Burn the Ships workshop with a guy named Judge Graham and another guy named Matt Monero, both guys who have built and exited big companies, done the big dollars, and they have these entrepreneur workshops. And I was there. It was a 2-day workshop. We got halfway through day 2, and they came to me with the camera and they said, what do you think? Or, what have you learned? And I said, I think one of you needs to tell me what the heck EBITDA is, because I have no idea. You've been talking about it for the last day and a half, and I don't even know what that is. Could you please help
Yes.
me in that world? And so I love that you're serving people in such a powerful, powerful way. That's incredible. Way to give back, Rebecca.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's incredible. We had a cohort of 60 women who we did a 6-week intensive with, really teaching them how to how to raise money, how to scale, how to speak to investors, and they've gone on to raise over $20 million, which is incredible for women-owned businesses, and 50% of them women of color.
Wow.
So I think I know, or I have to hope that when you invest in women, that payback not only for themselves but in their communities is far superior to men. No offense, and I continue to want to do it. I lost you, Glenn. Did I lose
That's
Glenn?
so amazing. This is Sarah. Yeah, I don't know what happened to his video. Sometimes that happens with the tech, but while he pops back on, it's so funny because I texted him, like, I want to ask you a question, and I wanted to ask you about your work to throw the rope back to women, because I do think it's so extraordinary, and I'm so glad you touched on that. And the other cause that I know you're really leaning into is sustainability, and I'm wondering if you couldn't share a little bit about that while I grab.
Yeah, so I think the word sustainability is a bit thrown around in ways that just makes companies sound like they're doing the right thing. And sustainability is a huge spectrum. And let me tell you, taking a company that was wasteful and trying to sort of turn the Titanic around is no easy feat, and by no means are we perfect. Knowing that overnight I couldn't just create a sustainable company, I said, okay, my rule is each new category that we enter, the products will be sustainably made. So our new launches are thought through in that way to have the lowest footprint, on the environment as possible, whether that's our perfume, which is sustainably made, the recycled glass bottles, the, cane sugar wrappings that are compostable, the FSC certified packaging, and then going through my supply chain and saying, all right, everything has to be recycled. Take out the plastic wherever you can. Are you going to get a bag that is sent to you with a plastic bag? Yes. Soon it's going to be compostable. And really trying to eliminate it from that perspective. And then we also launched RM Green, which is a size inclusive and sustainably made clothing line. So everything there is actually only made to order. There's no inventory or no waste. Everything is printed with earth-friendly chemicals. And we go up to a far larger range of sizes than we had in our apparel. So we're taking it one step at a time. And again, by no means are we perfect, but I'm trying to say, okay, each time we do something new, let's do it thoughtfully, let's do it sustainably. And as we clean up our back end, how do we take progressive steps to do that? Because it's easy to say, you should just be sustainable. Well, guess what? When you go to a factory and you say, hey, I know you make for like 100 other brands, but for just mine, can you do X, Y, and Z? And they're like, sure, yeah, we'll charge you $5 a bag for that. And then you can't even make a margin once they do that. So it takes time. So be patient with the companies that are trying, but I'm very bullish on it, and I'm trying as quickly as I can to go back and change things around.
I think that's incredible. So unfortunately, Glenn's iPhone is freaking out, but it kind of, at least he was here for most of the interview. And I just want to, take the opportunity to thank you so much. I can't tell you how excited I was about this interview today. So just a little bit of context about me. Actually, my great grandparents, when they came to this country, were tailors. My grandparents own a clothing store. Like, I literally grew up getting a love of fashion from my dad. And so when I reached out to you, there are so many things I admire about you. Not only all your work in fashion, but we just touched on all of your work to uplift women business owners. It's amazing that I just reached out to you and was like, will you hop on this new app and do this interview and have this experience with us? And you're like, yeah, let's go. So I just think you're extraordinary. And I was thinking of going to Austin for South by. So I'll definitely check out when that event is. I also saw we had a question about ordering your book. If you want to share some details about that and where everyone can find you before we hop off today.
Yeah, so you can go to Amazon and order my book. It's called Fearless, The New Rules for Unlocking Creativity, Courage, and Success. If you don't like Amazon, you can go to Books A Million or call your local bookstore and ask them to order it for you. You can find me at Rebecca Minkoff. You can also download and listen to my podcast wherever you want to listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, whatever. It's called Super Women, and I interview some extraordinary women, not only founders, but just women that you've heard of and ones you never have, that have overcome just crazy life things, crazy business things that sort of make you go, all right, she went through that. Well, I can fucking do this too. So you can have me in your ear every day if you want, and read my book and buy a bag.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today. Guys, clap it up if you enjoyed this interview with Rebecca Minkoff this morning, getting to know her a little bit better. I was freaking out. People had such a good time with you. Thank you so much for being with us. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a great weekend.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to my patient. Nice to see you guys. Thanks for joining, everybody.